All right, so this is my infographic and presentation on the Crucible by Arthur Miller. I don't know how to get my face on the screen doing it this way, so you'll just be seeing my infographic. So this is the Crucible by Arthur Miller. So it's the first question was, why did he write it? So Arthur Miller wrote the Crucible to show how uneasiness and hysteria sets in when someone or a group of people goes against the status quo or social norms. This was written during the Second Red Scare. During a time this was a time in history when people were being accused of being communists for simply going against the social norms and not conforming to the societal roles. And so he wrote this during the Second Red Scare to kind of show people this is what happens when you start to falsely accuse people of various things that go against the social norms. It'll cause mass hysteria. You'll start to have uneasiness. You'll have people in prison that are not guilty. You'll start having to have people that are being killed because they are accused of being a communist or a witch or an adulterer, something of that nature. So he was kind of writing it as a warning, like this is what happens when we push and push and push and accuse people wrongfully of things that they're not doing. The next question was, what were some of the examples of the hysteria in the Crucible? You got the witchcraft. You got the girls dancing in the woods being seen by Proctor and them being accused of casting spells and being hanging out around a slave, and the witchcraft being pushed off onto other people as well. You got adultery hysteria, as Proctor was having an affair with the maid. Abigail, and Elizabeth knew about it, but she tried to stay with him because she wanted to. She believed in their marriage and wanted to forgive him, and so on and so forth. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then status in society. These people were willing to push the blame off on these girls because they wanted to continue their status and being respected within society. Anytime you start to try to shift blame off of you, a lot of times that's going to flip around. It's going to come right back on you tenfold. And so that causes mass hysteria as well. The next question was, what are some of the social issues foregrounded in the Crucible? Intolerance of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the freedom to do as you please, whether or not the witchcraft takes place or what have you. There was an intolerance to it. They went against the religious doctrine of the time period and of the townspeople and so on and so forth. Then you got predetermined judgment. Predetermined judgment when you have people that basically hear a snippet and they automatically, yep, guilty, without hearing the whole story, hearing all the evidence. That can cause some major issues within society. Kind of already touched on societal status. Some of the characters in the book, they were so focused on keeping their standing within the society that they wanted to automatically point fingers at these girls and whatnot for performing witchcraft and so on and so forth. And then the social issue with hysteria just shows how quickly hysteria can unravel a community at its seams, and because it causes a lot of people to start looking at each other, start pointing fingers, just because they don't believe you're going along with the societal norms, so on and so forth. The detrimental effects of a repressive society. The biggest one to me shows how people can be ostracized. A repressive society easily can push people straight out and to be ostracized and be alienated and not talked to and so on and so forth. You see this with Abigail Williams. You see it with John Proctor. They begin to be the girls that are supposedly practicing witchcraft. They are ostracized. the harm to the family unit, that have the proctor's affair, and the strain it puts. I guess I deleted the T there, but the strain it put on their marriage. Ultimately, his wife, John Proctor's wife, says that she wants to stay with the marriage. She wants to keep it. She wants to keep their marriage alive, so on and so forth. The next one kind of feeds into that death. Proctor redeems himself through his execution, because he's not going to lie. He decides he does not want to lie just to get out of dying, and force other people to die in his stead just so he could keep his life. And Proctor's wife, she understands this. She says, I get why he's doing it. He's protecting other people. He's not going to lie just to protect himself, and she understands. And then the biggest one for me, the detrimental with the repressive society, is fear. Townspeople fear of there possibly being witches in the town, because they think, oh, well, these witches can put spells on us. They can steal from us. They can kill us. And it just puts this fear, strikes fear that it's kind of like the telephone game. Fear just kind of spreads, and it starts out as one thing, but by the time it gets to the end, it's a completely different fear. They're fearful of nothing that has anything to do with witchcraft. It's everybody has their own ideas of what is right and what is wrong, and that kind of creates this hysteria that goes along in this book. The Crucible's relation to characters and theocracy. A crucible is how they refine. It's an instrument used to refine metal through fire at high temperatures, and we know that high temps purify. Will purify, and so the Crucible's relation here is that it is a test of faith to test the faith of the townspeople. Are they secure in their Christianity? Are they secure in their faith? And are they going to come out on the other side purified because they went through these issues of witchcraft and adultery and societal status and those things like that, and are they going to come out on the other side better? And it really focuses on turning to their religion and believing in their religion, but also understanding that there are other views in the world outside of their faith. So some relations to the critical concepts such as ideology. You got ideology. The witchcraft was considered worshiping the devil. And a lot of the ideology within the story was that was against their ideology. Their ideology was that they were to not practice witchcraft. They were to focus on God and the Bible and do as God and the Bible said to do. You have prejudice. You got ostracizing those accused of witchcraft. You got the adult going ostracizing the adulterers, forcing those who are accused to confess in order to save their public image and standing in society. And like I said earlier with John Proctor, he decides to not confess in order to save his public image. He decides to, let me rephrase that. He decides not to lie and confess in order to save their public image. He says, I'll take my punishment. And so this prejudice where these people are being ostracized and talked against and so on and so forth is really shown during this play. And then you got social conformity. It shows that you got people that don't want to. There are people that are going to push against the social norms, and that's completely okay. Times have changed, obviously, but the Second Red Scare, people wanted to. If you spoke out against the U.S. government, you're automatically communist. And this is kind of, you spoke out against God and the church here, and you said, oh, I don't believe that, or I don't understand that, or I don't get that, or you're automatically a witch. And so it shows how social conformity and the social norms, and if going against it, you're treated unfairly, has been a way of life throughout our history. It continues to be a part of our history today. I'm so sorry. That's what happens when you have a 2-month-old. You gotta do laundry at all times of the night. So, but that's a good way to kind of end my video on the Crucible. This is kind of what I got from it. I look forward to the rest of the class and the other books we'll be reading.